You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javanokelo, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.
Thank you all for joining us. This is the beginning of Africa Day celebration on Clubhouse, and also this is the global celebration of Africa Day. This is the second year that we're doing Africa Day officially on Clubhouse, and I just want to welcome you all. We are just setting up. We are about 6 minutes early before the official time that the program was supposed to begin. It's exactly 11:54 p.m. In Seattle, Washington, where I am streaming from. And I am truly, truly grateful that you've all taken the time to join us for this historic day. I am going to be joined here not long from now with one of the individuals that are going to co-host this segment with me. His name is Yoftahe Mulatu Gabre, and we are going to be live on YouTube together. And if you don't know, we are live streaming on YouTube as well as on Clubhouse. So take a moment and join us. I'm going to let our moderators on the stage. If you have a green badge, you're going to be able to be on the stage and help us with moderation activities for the whole of Africa Day celebration. And so if you're a moderator, just expect to be pinged in a moment. Truly grateful. I see you, Funmi. I see Nekesa. Welcome. I see Dr. Eric Montgomery. Welcome. We are going to really have a fantastic Africa Day celebration today. I just want to check with Lavender. Can you hear my audio okay, Lavender?
Hello, Simon. Hi, Simon.
Hi.
I can hear you.
Very nice. Excellent. Well, for those who don't know, or for those of us who are just hearing about Africa Day for the first time, I do want to bring our guest for this segment up. The Kikombe is going to be our guest for this first segment of Africa Day celebration here on Clubhouse. I just brought him up. I just want to share with you a little more about Africa Day and what it is and why we should all be celebrating Africa. But firstly, I just want to begin by recognizing that we are living in a very complicated world, a world where sometimes too much freedom can lead to a lot of loss of lives, like what just happened here in the US. And as a parent of 3 girls who leave our house every day going to school, it's always this is a reminder that anything can really happen. Anything can happen not only to our children, the children that we love, and we do everything for, but their teachers, and even me as a parent, if I was there and I was not seriously equipped, I would end up in the same situation. So I just want you to know that if you've been impacted by I'm being joined here by one of the co-hosts of today's segment, so bear with me as I bring them on. So if you've been impacted by what happened today or yesterday, just know that my heart is with you and your family, and we are thinking about you. Throughout Africa Day, we are going to center some of these struggles that people are also going through in the world that are unnecessary. So just give us a moment as we set up here. In 2 minutes, we'll officially begin this segment. Okay. Yoftahe, what you're going to do is to remember the tip I gave you in regards to getting rid of echoes?
Yes.
Perfect.
I'm doing it right now.
Perfect. I'm just going to give Yoftahe a moment to position himself well. I see we have all our moderators joining us on the stage. So maybe Lavender, just take a moment and say hi. Let our wonderful audience members know where you're joining us from, and we'll go to Sensors. Introduce yourself. Then we'll jump to Avishta, and then Funmi, and then we'll come back to Yoftahe, and then the Kikombe. So while these introductions are happening, we are going to have a minute to finish setting up on this other side of YouTube. Thank you so much. Lavender?
Hi everyone, my name is Lavender Toya. I'm joining in from Nairobi, Kenya. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Hey, Sensors.
Yes, can you all hear me?
Yes, we hear
Can
you
you all
very
hear me?
well.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone in the continent and the Australias, as well as the Chinas, the Asian countries. Welcome to Africa Day 2022. We are so happy to have you here. My name is Census Kavang Luliang. I am a moderator as well as speaker in some of the events. I can't wait to have you all. I am based in the Midwest, so please know I am perhaps going to be awake for up to 28 hours or crash somewhere in the middle and wake back up again. But we are here for Africa Day, and we are just excited to have everyone on and excited to hear about the African experience in China.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. My name is Avishta. I was born in Mauritius. I'm currently located in Canada. I'm really happy to be here and to be celebrating Africa Day with you all. I'll be talking specifically about language education, preservation, revitalization, and promotion in Africa later on during this celebration and moderating sessions as well. Really happy to be celebrating this year's Africa Day with you all, and I look forward to learning from you all and connecting. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for having me, Simon, and everybody. Looking forward to the event. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you again, Avishta, for all the hard work that you put in to make Africa Day possible. Funmi, go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Yes, so hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you, Simon and team, for making this possible. So, my name is Fumi. I'm currently listening in or on the stage from Abuja in Nigeria. But I work in technology and I run an NGO as well for children in Africa. I'm really excited because I love the topic, which is sustaining a healthy Africa. And I'm looking forward to hearing from all of the speakers that we have coming up over the next 24 hours. So yeah, I'll be moderating some of the sessions and just generally very, very happy to be here. So Simon, back to you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I wanted to speak briefly about the history of Africa Day, but I want to just check with our moderators, Sensors, Avishta, Funmi, who wants to just give people a little background about Africa Day, where it began, and why we are here today, and then from there we will also introduce our first speaker for Africa Day, the Kikombe.
Sure, no problem. So hi everyone. So Africa Day is the annual commemoration of the foundation of the Organization of Africa Unity on May the 25th, 1963. And it's celebrated in a number of different countries on the African continent. And the intention is that we all get together and we celebrate and we acknowledge the success of the organization of African Unity, known as the OAU in the past and now AU. And as I mentioned, it was first created on May the 25th, back in 1963. It really is to, remember the fight against colonialism and apartheid, and also celebrate, obviously, the progress that Africa has made, and reflecting upon the common challenges. And the aim of this particular Africa Day, for this year in this clubhouse, as I mentioned before, is all about sustaining a healthy Africa, where we really want to talk about common themes, challenges, solutions, and celebrate so many different things: our food, our conversation, our languages, African spirituality, poetry, music, just so many things. So that's what Africa Day is all about. I'm really excited. Last year was amazing, and I know that this year will be as well. So Simon, as always, you and your team have done an incredible job. Thank you for the preparation. There's a website, everyone, if you want to take a look at that. It's africadaydiaspora.com, where we have a list of all of the speakers and all of the moderators. We talk about the theme. There's a video for you to watch as well. So I would recommend you take a look at that. But also, this is live streamed on YouTube also, so there is the opportunity to listen there. So yeah, I think I've covered what Africa Day means. So Simon, if you're there, I don't know if the tech issues are resolved, but I'd love to hand you the mic and let me know if there's anything else you want me to cover.
Thank you so much. This is Simon again. I just want to, take a moment and invite you all to, know that what Funmi shared with us is really what Africa Day is in short. If you want to learn more, the website has a lot more information, and we will be pinning it at the top of the room in a moment. But I want you all to know that the Kikombe was our first guest speaker for last year's Africa Day, and the Kikombe did an incredible job, and I just want to see if Sensas or Avishta want to just quickly share with our audience members the next three topics besides the one we are just about to embark on, and then Avishta or Sensas, if you want to introduce the Kikombe so that we can have the Kikombe presenting in maybe the next 3 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Yes, welcome everyone. We have a very amazing lineup for you. We are going to start off first with the African Experience in Asia, brought to you by Africa Day, with our guest speaker, the Kikombe, who lives in China and is going to talk to us about food. As you all know, our theme this year is at Healthy Africa, Sustaining Healthy Africa. And so we will be covering issues related to food, health, education, keeping Africa informed, educated, and healthy. That would be followed by exploring African indigenous spirituality, led by the great Gogo Rutendo Ngara and a group of traditional healers from South Africa and the other parts of the world. We are looking at African wisdom, African religion, known as others know them as also as sangomas in South Africa, and the story of African foods in the global market. I will be leading that discussion, moderating it with an amazing team of food specialists that come through. And then we will move on to discover the poets of Africa and the diaspora. These are the first 5 segments that I'm going to mention. It will be followed on by the next section that will be mentioned later, but I'm going to hand this over to Vishta to please welcome the Kikombe. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much for going over the first few hours of the program, Census. I would like to welcome the Kikombe. As Simon said, last year he was the keynote speaker for our very first session, so we're very glad to welcome him back for this year's event as the first speaker again for Africa Day 2022. I'll I guess Simon, if that's okay, can I read off his bio to introduce him? Is that all right with you?
Yes, for sure. And also, Charles Kishi is also supposed to be joining us for this segment, and I think we haven't, invited him yet. So go ahead and introduce the Kikombe, and then we need to bring on Charles Kishi to join us as well.
For sure. The Kikombe, it's a Swahili word for cup, a personal philosophy that sees human interactions as those that mirror human relations while with consuming what is in a cup. Whatever is inside a cup is meant to transform your life, whether it is at that particular moment or for the long term. Water, tea, coffee, wine, juice, and even porridge are ingested in our systems with the hope that they will transform us in one way or another. Kikombe, therefore, is you or me, and what lies in the cup in the interactions that I will hold with humans I interact with over time. Kikombe, an acronym for life values that I follow. K for knowledge, I for information and inquiry, K for keenness, O for open-mindedness, M for mindfulness, B for balance, and E for education and enlightenment. The Kikombe has been living and working in Thailand as an educator, photographer, voiceover artist, father, friend, and footballer for over 15 years. Welcome back to Africa Day this year. The Kikombe, we're really glad to have you. Thank you.
I think when you're reading that bio, um, it means so much to me. I'd never heard anybody read it out that loud since back in the days of Clubhouse when Simon and I used to do the daily African proverbs. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous because it's a big moment for me. Thank you for the introduction, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much. My brother Simon, Wanka, we're here again. Happy Africa Day. I cannot fathom how you do it. I don't know how you manage to assemble all these resources together and get people back to Africa Day for another time and be as consistent as you've always been with daily African proverbs and still be here. It's going to be a very interesting 24-hour marathon, and we are looking forward to it. I appreciate you. I salute you, my brother. Simon, I know you and I have spoken about this. So those of us who don't know, Simon and I grew up in the same sort of village, but we didn't really. Well, I knew him, but just from afar. It was only after we had grown up and met here on Clubhouse that I looked at his photo and actually realized I knew this gentleman back then when he was still a tiny little boy, and so was I. So meeting and reconnecting here again is such a privilege, and knowing that those of us who have come from those slums of Manyata have, ended up in such useful positions of society, not only in Kenya, but also out there in the world. I salute you, brother. Lavenda, Census, Yoftai, brother, Funmi, Lavinia, thank you. Thank you for being here. Yes, as Avishta has mentioned, I've lived in Thailand for about 15 years now. And the background to my moving to Thailand, which is what I prefer to begin with, is very weird. I was living in Tanzania and I was working at one of the group schools somewhere there as a teacher. And my contract was almost up, and it was time to renew my contract. And I met this gentleman called Hugh, and he said to me, "Look, you look like somebody who could go and explore the world and really get a great experience. Have you been to Asia? Particularly, have you been to Thailand?" And I said, "No, I've never been." I was single back then. So he said to me, you know, you need to go out there before you get a family, because the experience that's there is one that I think you will really appreciate. He had lived and worked here before. So that afternoon I went and I applied for a job, and then I just let it be. You know, I just Googled some things and I let it be. And interestingly, I got responses, and a few days later I had an interview, and since 2007 June to now, this is where I've lived. So 15 years of living here. That's a good background for our our discussion this afternoon that I'd like us to have. Simon, I'm not sure how comfortable you are for us to embark on this discussion, but for me, I'd like to look at healthy habits that we can learn specifically from my experience here in Thailand. I know Asia is vast, you know, we're looking at India, the Middle East, and so on and so forth, but I prefer to look at the experience that I know about living in Thailand and what Africa can learn, and how, what ways I think that as Africans we can be inspired to grow healthily. Is that okay with you, brother?
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Carry on.
Okay. Okay, so I do have three takeaways for me as a person that I believe that Thais are doing great. Only three, and they're all related to health. Now, these three are food and movement, so physical activities, and the other one is healthcare services or education. I believe that in terms of that, I think there's so much that we can learn about Thailand. But first, I have a disclaimer. My disclaimer is that no population is perfect. We all have shortcomings, and no one can just be a great person daily. We all have all these flaws, and these flaws often come with sprinkles of optimism or positive traits that can inspire us. And I tend to look at the positive aspect of life. So sometimes, perhaps when I'm speaking on here, or when we're having discussions in here, when you ask me questions, it might appear that I'm talking about this utopia or such a paradise sort of place. Please don't take it that way, and I apologize if it comes out that way. I am picking the positive aspects of my life experience here. There have been so many positives. There have been a huge amount of negatives. But today I'd like to talk about the experience that I've had and what can inspire Africans. One, food. When I look at food, you know, one of the first things that I noticed when I walked into Thai restaurants in Bangkok, where I lived back then, one of the things that hit me so much was the portion of food. The serving was so small, and it was smaller compared to the ones I'd experienced back in a few countries I'd been to Africa. As I mentioned earlier, I used to live in Tanzania, and there they serve really big portions of food. So a single plate rice serving in Thailand is comparatively small. And in Kenya, I don't know, those of us who speak Swahili or from East Africa, in Kenya, we would call it like patko or fist size, you know, like they give you a fist size of rice, and then the stew comes in, and then that's what they give you as a plate. And I'm not sure, I wasn't sure why this is. And perhaps it's because, you know, people in this part of the world are fairly smaller built than our African brothers, whatever the reason. But what I realized is that the smaller the portions I kept having day by day, the less hungry I seemed to be over a period of time. Now, this might be related to research or not, but this is a personal experience. To date, I only eat very small portions, and this comes as a learned habit. You know, I once read somewhere that if you eat until you're full, you're likely to have overeaten, because our stomachs are like balloons and food is like water. And the more water you fill into this balloon, the larger the expansion. And apparently this expansion is what we feel in our stomachs. You feel that you're full. And so what I'm thinking about is perhaps we should eat just to eat. That's what is enough, which is what I have learned about most Thais. When you go to a Thai restaurant and they, perhaps you order for your fried rice, they won't give you like a whole plate filled with fried rice. They'll give you just a good amount portion of fried rice, often a fifth size amount. And when I look even at research, I think an adult human stomach is about 12 inches at its longest, right? Then when it expands the most is 12 inches. That's like a ruler, 12-inch ruler. And if I'm correct, it's about 6 inches at its widest point. And that's a whole lot of food to fit in. And that's a whole sufuria of food. And I think sometimes that's what we do. Maybe Thais were aware of this, and hence the reason for less servants. The second thing, or another thing that I notice about Thailand is the abundance of food. Thailand is one of the top rice exporters in the world after, I think, India and Pakistan and Vietnam. And I understand that they export about, if I'm not wrong, it's 5 to 6 million tons of rice throughout the world. Now, I can imagine that this has not always been this way, because Thais take a lot of pride in agriculture, and schools teach children how to grow food products and general agroeconomics from a very tender age. And I know we do the same in our motherland, because I remember growing up in Kenya, we used to have these clubs called 4K clubs and agriculture clubs, but I tend to feel that this has gone down. We have embarked so much on educating our Africans about technology and businesses and entrepreneurship, but we overlook the reason why we should have abundance of food. According to research, what I know is that 60% of arable land in the world is in Africa. 60%. Yet Africa doesn't produce even half of the amount of food that the rest of the world produces. So 60% of the land that can be cultivated and harvested comfortably is in Mama Africa. And I think we can make healthier decisions by making best use of this arable land to make food abundant for our continent. So one thing that I think the Asians and the Thais have done great is they have made education a force for people to understand the need to feed themselves, so then they don't have to go to the neighbors and look for food. And yes, Thailand imports food, but is not in such a huge amount as we may have seen from other countries. Thailand exports their staple food, yet some of our countries in Africa, for example, Kenya, imports maize, which is a staple food, yet we have so much land that we can grow our food in. One thing that really bothers me, my people, and correct me if I'm wrong, one thing that really bothers me is how we are not proud of the food that we produce. When I was a teenager, I remember there was one time that we had a visitor, and it came from a different country. They came from Uganda. We've got some relatives in Uganda and Tanzania, and they came from Uganda. And I remember them asking me, so what food do you want to really, what food do you want to show me? What Kenyan food do you want to show me? I kid you not, I took them to Kenchik. And Kenchik is a place where they sell French fries and chicken, right? And I remember thinking as an adult, recently I was thinking as an adult, goodness me, like I must have made some very poor choices at that time. But no, it's a design and a software that's put in your head so that you're that way. And so one thing I've noticed with Thais is they have mastery of how to cook their own food. You meet a Thai person straight from day one, and they'll ask you if you've tried tom yam goong or pad krapao or som tam salad. And if you don't, I kid you not, they will show you how to do it. And they're often very eager to take you to those small kiosks, buy you food, and let you take it with them. See, I'm a teacher, and I noticed that when you work in the Thai educational system, the mastery of cooking skills is highly encouraged. You'll rarely meet a Thai person that doesn't know how to cook their common meals, right? So tom yam goong, even a little kid can make you. You know, we're living in a population back home where very few of us can actually make ugali or chapati. I'm not very proud myself that, you know, it took me so long to make just one chapati, chapati, which we really, really love. So that proficiency, I think we need to work on it. And what I noticed also about this mastery of food that the Thais have is that most of these foods are made of products by local farmers. And I don't know about you, but we have such a wide range of food types and products in Africa. Yet in our education system, when you look at exams, sometimes students are writing recipes for pizza and burger. I mean, I might be kidding. I'm not sure about the pizza and burger. That's probably a hyperbole. But these are things that we need to get our children to be patriotic about. And when they're patriotic about it, the design becomes so that people need to go to Africa so that they can go and eat nyama choma. They can go to Africa so they can go and eat gari. They can go to Africa so they can go and try that fufu. Because I know there is food tourism even in Thailand where people come here, they learn to cook Thai food, go back to their home and start a Thai restaurant. Powerful. We can do the same so that we can extend that knowledge of our Africa. I'm saying I want Africans to master making that fufu, that gari, that ugali, that nyamchom, that mahamri, that kunde, aluru, and pride. Take that pride in it so that when a visitor comes from outside, they will take them to the local kibanda or the local restaurant or kiosk to eat that jollof rice and egusi soup, and not take him to KFC or McDonald's, And I'm not sure what else Coca-Cola have on the table. And then that goes to pretty close my second last bit about food, and it's about food presentation. If any of you have ever been to a Thai restaurant or a little shack or a Thai kiosk, you will agree with me that the presentation is meticulous. Even a little thing you buy is packaged in such personal beauty. They will take this sticky rice or coconut salad and put it in this banana leaf wrapped really well, sprinkle some water onto it, and it looks so beautiful. They put flowers. There was a time I went and ordered Penang chicken, which is red curry paste chicken curry with coconut. And when they serve that and put it on a plate, they put this flower, what is it called? Frangipani flower or lilawadi flower. And they put it on the side and it looks beautiful from above. And I remember looking at that thinking, okay, this must be salad, because back home they give you that cabbage and lettuce and they've sprinkled all that weird mayonnaise on it. I don't know. And I remember putting that flour in my mouth and hey, it tasted so bad. And the waitress came to me and said, don't eat that. That's just for display,
Yeah.
So, so food presentation is
Sorry,
powerful.
I can't hear you.
Keep going. I think Lavina unmuted by mistake. Keep going, the Kikombe.
Okay.
But just while we have this unintended break, I want to actually just invite our audience members to share the link to the room. We are at 18 shares. We need to get to 50 shares before the Kikombe finishes speaking. And you can share within Clubhouse, outside of Clubhouse, and also in the chat. If you have questions for the Kikombe, our moderators are going to be looking at the chat. So put your questions there. If you want to join us on the stage, whether you're a volunteer or a speaker or an audience member, please let us know in the chat as well, so that we can prioritize who we bring on stage, according to the requests that are made. Thank you so much. The Kikombe,
Simon, can I go on?
yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. So I was talking about food presentation and how it plays a major role in Thailand, and I think that is something that we can learn. You know, I grew up eating chapati and dondo, which is like chapati and fried beans, really well made. I remember going to a restaurant and looking at that in somewhere in Dubai. I remember going somewhere in Dubai to a restaurant and looking at it, and they called it some really fancy name, but the picture showed chapati and dondo, so I got that, and when it came, I barely could recognize it. The beans, and they put them in all these compartments, and the chapati is cut into really weird slices. And in my head, I was thinking, you know what, I can do this. And to date, I actually do that for my children. So presentation, I think, is important so that you can attract more people to eat our food, so that people are not afraid of that little food in a shack. So people are not afraid of going to drink nyuka. Nyuka is porridge that I grew up drinking this porridge from the local woman that sells it out on the road. But the general narrative is that that food is dirty. It's healthy. It's just the presentation that's lacking, which leads me to the next bit about food that's important, and that's design. You know, the design that I've noticed about the food culture in Asia, especially the type of food and the cuisine that they have, anyone can afford it. Anyone. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a tourist who's come from high class, or if you're a Thai that's just really low level. Anybody can afford it. And they've designed it so that everyone, whether it's a tourist or whether it's the richest Thai driving, my friend Rogers and I were talking about this the other day, because we often talk about these issues, and we're saying, why is it that here you will see somebody coming out from the most expensive vehicle, luxurious, and they step out and they go and eat like sticky rice from a local woman for $1. And the idea was because they are very proud of their food and they like it and it tastes good. So they have designed their food culture in the system so that anybody can afford it. A tourist can afford it. A little kid who makes some little pocket money can afford it. Doesn't have to spend a whole week to be able to afford French fries. So, for example, if you go to Nairobi to local delicacies, simple meals like chapati and dondo will be labeled in names that only the chef can pronounce. And it is expensive. And it tastes almost the same. Sometimes it's even more expensive than the French fries and chicken at Kenchik. And you wonder why, when, the other one is meant to be local. In Thailand, for example, even top class tourists sit outside a little outdoor kiosk and drink $50 worth of drink that comes with a salad. So design is really important if you want to keep people healthy. When you go to the cities nowadays, particularly in our cities in Africa, there's an influx of unhealthy habits. And that leads me to the next aspect, which is like physical movement and availability of resources for people to use. Thailand has 77 provinces. We call these provinces counties in Kenya. And for a particular reason, which I think is a great reason, every single province has one or even 5 stadiums and an overwhelming number of parks. Not national park, not tourist park, no. Free public amenities, recreation parks, well taken care of, that people can go to and engage in healthy activities. In these parks, you can find gyms. It's cheap, and if it's not free, then it's definitely cheap. You know, I'm looking at Bangkok, which has a very huge amount of districts, right? Bangkok only has almost 20 parks. There's Lumpini Park, Benchasri Park, there's Chatuchak, there's Benchakit, there's Quincerikit, there's the Bangkok MRT Garden, there's Rama 8 Park, there's Santi Park. Big parks, well taken care of. They lawn them, they water them, and in the evening, what you see is people running around the park, people walking around the park. There's old women doing Tai Chi on the park. I kid you not, every evening in Thailand at 5 p.m., between 5 and 7 p.m., you will not drive 5 kilometers within a city and fail to see a group of people taking part in aerobics or football or volleyball. People are moving. And if I make a comparison, we have this space, and we might have not designed this space for ourselves back home, but we have this space in Africa that we can shape it to become spaces that can get people to be active. You know, at shopping malls, for example, parking lots become useless spaces after dark because everybody's gone home. And in Thailand, some of these become exercise places buzzing with activity. I know of one Tesco Lotus and then one of a Big C, which is a shopping mall, that turns their parking lot into an aerobic station in the evening. So after everybody's left, then it becomes an aerobic station, a dance studio. You'll find little teenagers with their skate parks jumping up and down, moving. Even futsal sometimes. You feel the local builders with their futsal ball, and they block some aspect of the parking lot and they turn that into football. Or Thai Sepak Takraw is this is one of the hardest games I've ever played. It's a South Asian ball game where you have to keep the ball up with your feet. It's like volleyball, but with you use your legs, not your hands. Hardest sport I've ever tried. So aerobics, yoga, Tai Chi, people are taking part in these. The national Thai sport is Muay Thai, which is like Thai boxing. But I kid you not, one of the most popular sports in Thailand is golf and football, still more popular than their national sport. And they invest in it. They invest in sports like nobody's business. And this investment comes with tournaments. And the more tournaments they get, the more active the population becomes. And I'm looking at the way things are happening. I think in future, they might have some really great opportunities to embark in even wider sports because things happen by design. And if that's not something that we can learn back home, I don't know what can help us make healthier habits. Brother Simon, I'd like to finish by mentioning and saying again that no population is perfect, that every population has got its flaws, and we Africans are not perfect, and neither are Asians or people from Europe, but we can learn from each other. We can learn from each other in the aspect that we can embark on everyone's journey and pick habits that can help us grow together. And I think it's important that Africa learns so much from Thailand. My name is Dekikombe. K is for knowledge. I is information, because I believe that everyone out there has got information that anybody can share. The other K is keenness, because I think we need to pay attention to each other. The more you pay attention to people that you don't agree with, the more you get to understand them. The O is open-mindedness, because I believe that an open mind creates an open world. Doesn't matter who you are, boy, girl, gay, straight, Muslim, Christian, Jew, bring it on. We got to learn to live together. M is mindfulness. We pay attention and we're aware of each other. We're aware of the environment, and we're aware of the mistakes and decisions that we make. And B is balance. There is time to play, there is time to laugh, there is time to cry, and there's time to giggle about. There's time to work, and there's time for family. And finally, education or enlightenment. Everyone you will ever meet has an opportunity to educate you. Brother Simon, thank you.
The Kikombe. Thank you so much. Let's just have some mic taps for Brother Kikombe. And I know that we have some questions that are going to come to you in a moment. But I want to take a moment to just invite Yoftahe Mulatu, who is live with me on YouTube and co-hosting this entire Africa Day event. Yoftahe, just a few comments while we wait for the questions to be read by Funmi.
Kikombe, can you hear me, Simon?
Yes, I hear you very well.
Okay, good. Kikombe, you did it again. You did it last year, and you did it again this year. You give us the balance that we are looking for, the experience, what we should be proud of every single time you talk about it. Start with the food, the little thing that we come and we can offer. The first thing that we have to say, because we always trying to have someone else echo who we are, instead of being ourselves, the voice that we need to be able to echo, the voice that we need to be extending. So I thank you, brother, from Africa, from Europe, from Asia, everywhere you travel, the voice, even the way you spelled out the Kikombe and how you balanced it, how we need to come out, that balance that most of the time that we are missing in Africa, you put it all together. So I thank you, brother. You did it. It's an honor to have you here and call you as a brother. So the balance that you talked about, my takeaway from it is be proud of who we are, learn how to cook, and be able to explore, because through food we share our culture, through food we share our love. So who we are, what we eat from the young age, and by bringing it to others, it gives us also a part of a story that we are able to tell the world. So I want to thank you for everything that you shared. Peace to you, brother. Back to you, back again, Simon.
Excellent. Thank you so much, my brother Yoftahe. There's a lot of conversations going on behind the scene that is making this main Africa Day conversation possible. So, if you are in the audience, whether you are watching it on YouTube or whether you are listening on Clubhouse, we just want to thank you for taking the time to be here with us, so that we know that the sweat that we're putting in, is not in vain. And also there are thousands of Africa Day events happening across the world today, and we are all doing it for one purpose, the motherland, like the Kikombe was mentioning earlier. So, I just urge you to know that we are not doing this for ourselves. We are trying to be good ancestors. So Funmi, I'll pass the mic to you so that you can read some of the questions that came on the chat for the Kikombe to respond to.
Absolutely. Now, let me just check. Can you hear me, Simon? Am I audible?
Your audio is not so good today, Funmi. I wonder if you want to get closer to your mic.
Is this better?
It's so good now. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, good. Great. The Kikombe, wow. Thanks for taking us to Thailand and then to Africa and then back to Thailand. That was really awesome. We have some questions in the chat. So let me just pick the first one that I've seen, which is Jonathan, Jonathan LA. And he asked a question. He says, I have a question for the speaker about the need that we need to move beyond subsistence agriculture in Africa, and what can we learn from Thailand. The Kikombe, were you able to hear the question from Jonathan?
The Kikombe, did you hear that? Just take a stab at it, please. Do you want Funmi to repeat the question one more time?
I think his mic is muted. Yeah, he's back now.
Hi, the Kikombe. Can you hear me, the Kikombe? Am I audible to you?
Okay, perfect. Now I can hear you now.
Oh, awesome. Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Could you repeat
So,
the question again, please?
of course, yes. So one of our speakers, one of our audience members, has asked a question to you. So he wants to know around. Just bear with me. Let me get back to the question. Yeah, he wants to talk about subsistence agriculture. So subsistence agriculture, and what can we learn from Thailand?
So subsistence agriculture means like the agriculture where you grow for food, if I'm not wrong. So you grow it so that you eat it rather than to sell, right?
Yeah, I think that feeds into this, subsistency message. So yes,
Right.
please, if you can just
So
give your view on that.
so what I notice about Thailand is they have enough food for the local. For example, every province has the onus of producing their own food per se. It doesn't always work that way. As I mentioned, nobody is perfect, but they have such a surplus of food, and that's what goes out. But the what is called the the priority is to feed themselves. 2020, for example, when they exported 5 to 6 million tons of rice, they went a step lower from, I think it wasn't Vietnam, it was probably Pakistan, right? But it's because during that time people were not planting, and so they had to take care of their own. Do you know what I mean? So then there is education for people to understand that you grow the food so that you can feed yourself, not grow the food so that we can sell it and make money. It's that habit or that mindset. We need to feed ourselves to stay healthy, not we need to grow food so that we can send money and get a foreign exchange earner or something. And in any case, most countries actually get foreign exchange from other products, not necessarily just agricultural products. I'm not sure if that answered the question.
The Kikombe, so I'm delighted to see that we have Jonathan on the stage who posed the question. So let me just take this time to pass Jonathan the mic. So Jonathan, if you can hear us, please do on mic and respond back to the Kikombe. Thank you. Hi, Jonathan. I'm not sure if I'm audible to you, but if you could just unmic and just have a direct conversation with the Kikombe. Okay, perhaps he may be struggling to unmic. Oh, he's left. He may be struggling with network. He's back. But yeah, so
Can you
okay,
hear
he's
me now?
unmiked. Yes.
Okay,
Please
sometimes.
go ahead.
All right, thank you, the Kikombe. I think you presented a lot of information, but someone that grew up in Nigeria, what I find was most of our farmers, we have way more farmers in Africa than all of the other continents combined. So if you look at the stats, our people want to farm. The problem is they are only able to grow just about enough for them to consume and a little. And so that leads to what I wanted to talk about, food security. So I think one of the things that Thailand has been able to do with rice farming, and a lot of our governments in Nigeria have tried to use the Thailand model, on paper very well, in practice very poorly. We need to learn a lot of things from Thailand in terms of being able to get enough food for our people and then excess. Because what that does is it brings money to the continent and it does all of the beautiful economic things, stabilizes the currency, creates jobs. I feel, or I know, there's a part that the government is supposed to do. I'm convinced, and I know that there are so many people that are interested in farming. We have the largest amount of farmers, but that part, which, I mean, probably political, that needs to be included where that's been done in Thailand, that's missing. And so I wish if we could get that for our people, and then really moving forward, that would be helpful.
The Kikombe.
So,
I'm
okay.
trying my mic. Hello? Can you hear me now? Yes, Jonathan.
We can now.
Jonathan, thank you. And I think you said it very clearly, and I believe that you answered your own question. I think with food, I believe that there is that idea of nation earning and export earning. So that when nation earning is enough, then the surplus of food can be exported. But I think sometimes we as Africans, we have problems where sometimes there is that miseducation of not really prioritizing the nation earning, so that the people make the food to feed themselves first, then the surplus goes out. At the moment, the food surplus in Thailand is at what they call macros level, so up there. So they have a lot of extra food that they can export, particularly rice, right? Now, you remember earlier I mentioned that not every population is perfect, and there are problems in every population. The availability of this food is another issue that we can talk about. Accessibility, not availability. The accessibility of this food we can talk about on a different level. But the reality is the government, or not just the government, but the people of Thailand have established that they need to invest in their land to feed themselves. That's the underlying factor. Invest in your land properly to feed yourselves. Africa has the largest amount of arable land in the world. 60% of the world arable land is in Africa, one single continent. Yet we are struggling to feed ourselves. And I know that there are many factors that are underlying and that can influence that, but that is the reality. And that I believe that goes the same to Kenya as well. Once you invest in feeding your people, then you will get that surplus to export. We have so much land in our country that is used for cash crop farming rather than food crop farming. You know, we export one of the highest amount of tea in the world, and then we import maize, which is our staple diet. To me, I think that is uninformed priority.
How am I going to do this?
Well, thanks to Kikombe. Really excellent points. Fumi, thanks for having me. I think I also wanted to just say, in terms of practicality, on the continent, probably three things are needed to have food in surplus. One, our farmers need water year round. And I mean, if you've lived around Africa and you've moved around Africa enough, you'd know that one of the problems is most of our farmers rely on rainfall. Now, what happens is that's affected by climate. So we need to find ways locally in communities. There are ways that can be done. And a good example is where Israel has used underground water. And then you can have farmers, especially for fresh vegetables. Secondly is we need to bioengineer our own seed. This is a bit of controversial, but we need to look for seeds that are resistant to the things that destroy farmers' crops. The other things you find, at least in Nigeria, of course, we've heard of the farmers' headers crisis. That needs to be permanently resolved. If you look at the case with Nigeria and headers, herding has an extraordinary large amount of wealth it can bring to the country, but we need to move to ranching. We can't, open grazing is really something of the past. So And I've thought about a model called the ranching villages. So we need sort of like those kind of specific things on the continent. Therefore, we can, for instance, produce so much beef in a year that it becomes smarter for most parts of the world to buy beef from us. Then, of course, we need to make it fashionable to be a farmer. So think of farmers in the States. They've got helicopters, they've got healthcare, they've got schools, they've got universities. So until, for instance, our farmers in Africa see that you have this, then finally, the rest is marketing. It's beginning to happen now. At least we need to see in major cities like London, where you have for instance, African restaurants or Nigerian restaurants, and you can have all of the cuisines. And then we begin to work with people in sort of cultural adaptation. Probably there are no people that do this better than the British. And if you go around the world, you've got the British Council, British Council, British Council. And what happens is until we are proactive, because what I see is we tend to be passive rather than proactive. Then my final point. So I recently was in a meeting and I spoke to, I don't know if we know him, Mo Ibrahim, about the African Union. And I may be biased, but I think the African Union needs to do more to sell the African culture, just like the European Union. So, but Mo Ibrahim educated me on something, the difference between, and I did post this on my LinkedIn, the question I asked him. And what he told me was the problem with the African Union was it lacks sovereign power compared to the European Union. So even if you have good practice in Kenya, you cannot easily spread it to Nigeria or South Africa because the African Union doesn't have sovereign power. He also raised the point of funding, that again, the African Union needs to be funded better. So if you have good practice, you can spread it across. And finally, he said, I do not think there's a better solution to our problem on the continent than we ourselves. So these are some of the things. Maybe I'll speak on food security a bit later on when I'd allow other people to speak, because that could take a bit of time. But I'd like to thank the Kukumbe, Fumi, and everybody on stage for having this opportunity to just talk about this on a very interesting day like this.
Amazing, Jonathan. I can see you have a lot to add to this conversation. I'm looking forward to hearing more from you. I'm in Africa right now, and one of the things that we're doing is agriculture and farming. So I would love to connect with you on that as well. But yes, we have one more question for the Kikumbe. I hope this is fine, Simon. We have Oya in the chat. So she had a question, which is, what will be the solution for Africa to produce more than consume? How can we go from 3% to at least 45% global production?
So I wonder if I could quickly just jump in. Jonathan, Oya, and all those in our listening lounge, we have a deep dive section on agriculture that I believe all the questions you are having would be clearly articulated and debated, and we would be very happy to have you guys in that section. So I'm going to give this back to Kikombe. And for everyone else, if you're interested in an Africa Day PTR, you can copy the one you see on my PTR, screenshot that, and you can use that to just increase the awareness. Lastly, this event is purely voluntary. So everyone you see here with all the badges supporting, working on it, are doing this all from their heart, with no compensation, but just a dedication to the continent. This is Census. I am complete. Back to you, Kikombe.
And this is Simon speaking. The Kikombe, I know that we are getting close to the end of your segment. We are just about to get into the next segment. We already have Gogo Rutendo Ngara, who is curating the next segment with us live on YouTube. So I think if possible, we could begin wrapping up this segment and going into the next segment. But that does not stop our audience members from sharing the link to our conversation. Let's get to 50 shares on Clubhouse. We are also on YouTube. Please remember to subscribe to the channel. That's the African Father in America podcast. That's where we host the daily African proverbs here on Clubhouse. So make sure you subscribe, and I'll bring it back to you, the Kikombe, to wrap up, and we will start bringing guest speakers for the next segment on stage. So Jonathan, we will gently take you back to the audience and bring in guests for the next segment on the stage. Thank you so much. The Kikombe, your closing remarks.
Closing remarks. First of all, I apologize for me. I do not remember who asked the question, but I think Jonathan already answered that question, and it might have been a bit overally, but most of our problems in Africa can be solved overally, right? One, as the AU is working, we're working towards common free market. You know, earlier we mentioned that we have 10% arable, 60% arable land, but we don't get a lot of water. We don't have a lot of water in Africa. We only get 2 seasons of rainfall, and it's not so much. And we only have 10% of the between 8 and 10% of the world, all of world's water. So we don't have a lot of water. So one thing we can do in order to be able to sort this out is we need to educate our people so that we get conventional methods of farming. We need to be, as Jonathan mentioned, we need to be proactive, and the AU needs to get that sovereign power so that different countries, and having that common free market, can share practices and invest in education. Invest in education so that people are aware what choices they make when they're using the land in Africa. Very soon we will only have cities, but we won't have any food to eat, because we all want to build big apartments. We want to build big parts, and that will be a dangerous point to be in as Africa. We can learn. We can learn from countries like China, for example. You know, like about 30 to 40 years ago, China was poor, was essentially poor. No, sorry, not 30, about 50 so years ago, China was a poor country, right? And look at it now. They put their head down, they worked, and they worked. And they realized that they needed to feed their people, and they did. They realized that they needed to be a superpower in technology, and they put their head down and they worked. They stayed away from politics. A lot of our decisions are run by politics. And this is a situation that we can, this is a conversation that we can hold later on, with the idea that we acquired so many problems with the kind of leadership that we were left with on the onset of our independence. And these poor qualities are still going on now. So if we stay away from politics and focus on developing our own, then we will not die poor. That 3% will grow. I yield the microphone.
Thank you.
African Father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. African Father